Hey Ryan, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I felt like now would be a good time for us to catch up and see how your training was going, and just kind of fill everybody in that's doing the virtual race alongside you, and those people who are just following everything you're doing anyway, just to catch up with you.
Yes, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay, so let's first talk about your training. So where are you at? Where is your mileage at? Where is your like what's next? How is your strength training going? Those kind of things.
My mileage is going good. This is actually my peak week. I'll be getting 66 to 70 miles this week. I'm scheduled for 66. I've been toying with the idea of kicking it up just a little bit. Um, and then after this, I'll start tapering back down a little bit. The strength training has been a little bit more of a challenge because I'm doing it at home.
Yeah.
And there's a million distractions, whether it's trying to be Mr. Mom to the kids or the couch. It's hard to get motivated at home. So the workouts haven't been as good as they would have been otherwise, but any workout is better than no workout.
Yeah, absolutely. And body weight strength training has been found to be just as effective, especially for you that is getting other cross training. You're on trails, you're on roads, so you're varying it up and keeping your body healthy. So that's a great way to start.
Yeah, I think so.
And let's talk a little bit about what your frustrations have been. I know obviously from the training part and the fact that you're now Mr. Mom all the time, but what about during your runs? Are you experiencing like the weather? Because like today it's snowing, but it's April in Illinois. So like what are those kind of challenges that you're experiencing during your runs?
It's kind of been a little bit of everything. From having to run with 30-mile-an-hour winds to sudden cold to rain, trying to race a storm home, things like that have definitely made it difficult. I've also found there's been a few runs where I feel out of sync, whether my breathing will be off or I can feel my form being bad, so I'll have to like stop and try and refocus. And I've run into that a few times.
What do you
The
do
best thing,
what do you do when you feel like your form's off?
I this last time, the most recent time, I stopped and did some drills, some skipping and some karaoke, and then started going back into the run, and it helped for a little bit, but then I could feel my form kind of going off again. So I put a metronome on my phone because I carry my phone with me when I'm running, and it was it was tedious and it was obnoxious, but it kept my form a lot better. So just any little trick you can, because once I've noticed that once I start to feel my form go, then it becomes like this thing in my head where I'm not enjoying the run anymore. It's more of a chore, and I'm focusing, and I start to get in my own head. And so any little trick I can do like that to break that thought cycle and kind of refocus myself, recenter myself is good. Sometimes I'll put music on. I don't typically listen to music when I'm outside. I enjoy listening to nature or being aware of the vehicles around me. But occasionally I'll have to put music on just to help myself zone back out.
Okay. I find that like if my form falls off, I feel very heavy when I'm running then. And that's when that little voice that tells me I should just stop seems to get louder. And that's right. And I'm glad you're using the drills. That makes me happy as your running technique coach. Makes me so happy because I'll use the metronome too. That's kind of my reset. Or I'll find a song that's at like 180 steps per minute or beats per minute. And that kind of pumps me up and gets me going every time. And then that usually helps too. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that and that you did heed my advice. So thank you for that. I think that too, the weather has been fairly cool. Like there have been a couple cold days, but It seems to be fairly okay running weather from temperature wise.
Other than a few cold days and a few windy days, I think we've had more good running days than bad this spring. Knock on wood. We've been pretty lucky.
I just wish that the sun was out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Are you typically running early in the morning, during the afternoon, and the evening? Is it just when you can find the time between your schedule and Danielle's schedule?
Yeah, it's whenever I can carve out the time. During the week, it's usually in the afternoons or early evenings. On the weekends, I try and get it done as early as possible so that I'm maximizing my family time.
Okay.
I try and get out the door before everybody wakes up.
I think too, one of the cool things is that you'll text me sometimes on your runs and say like, I need some motivation. And
Yeah.
for all of you out there that are doing the virtual race, and we had asked you guys for words of encouragement to Ryan, and I want you to know that he uses them. He'll text me and want some of those words, and so I just pull up the little spreadsheet I made and just plug away to him a couple comments. And I think that has been something really special from my standpoint that I've gotten to be a part of with you, Ryan, is like using other people's words and like how you've inspired them to go back and inspire yourself. And so that's one of the things I've loved most about this, is being part of that part of your training, just because I think it shows how inspiring you and your story are.
I appreciate all those messages that people sent in, because when you're kind of in the thick of a run and you're tired or you're sore or something hurts, or you're not feeling it, it's so easy to just start feeling bad for yourself and start thinking of all the reasons not to be doing it. And when you send me those messages, it kind of reminds me of why I'm out here and why I'm doing it. And so yeah, it definitely helps.
And let's talk about your beard. Okay, are you growing it out till after the race?
I am. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet after May 30th, but no trimmers will see it until at least May 30th.
Okay.
Got the Forrest Gump look going.
Well, I like it. I mean, I think it fits really well.
Yeah, I do too. I kind of forgot what it looked like without it now.
Well, and so sometimes I forget that, like when you and I will FaceTime or something, like I'll forget about the beard. Like I'm expecting to see the Ryan I'm used to, and then I see the beard. I'm always like, oh yeah, the beard. So it'll be weird to go now back to the shaved face.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I think we're going to get a facet of the beard.
Okay. Well, how's Danielle feeling about all this?
She's gotten used to it. She didn't like it at first, but now and the kids tell me all the time how much they like it. So it's got to look somewhat all right.
Well, your wife is amazing. So I've said that many times. I still think she's amazing.
Yes.
So. Okay. Now the other thing too is we have the goal of all of this was to, especially the virtual run, was to us to be running alongside you virtually until race day for you, which is May 30th. So there are a lot of people. There are over 120 people virtually running alongside you. And every week they post updates on how they're doing. They're tracking their mileage. We can see all these people's mileage and they're doing amazing. And it's so fun to watch people who had never run before now try to add up 83 miles or 130 kilometers by the time you run at the end of May. What are some things you want to say to them that you've seen their posts every week on our private Facebook page and you've heard their stories? What words of encouragement would you give to them?
Oh man, it's just been so fun to watch everybody that's been posting, from the people that used to run that kind of fell out of it and regained their love for it, to people that have never been runners and have just been plugging along. It's been so fun to watch everybody's progress, and I hope that the people that are watching that have been a part of this, I hope that you go back in your timeline and look at what you were doing at the start, because there's marked improvement, and it's been so cool to watch. It's been very enjoyable.
The race day was going to be a day where a lot of people came out to support you, and we've had some complications from the coronavirus kind of interrupt some of those plans, but we've still been moving forward with some day of race plans. So I guess let's divide that into two conversations. So the first part is, let's talk about what's going to happen for you personally on race day.
As far as I'm concerned, there's not going to be a big change for me. I still plan on starting at the same time, starting from the same place, all of that. I guess the biggest difference will be whether or not the shelter in place is lifted. If we're still trying to isolate people, then I probably won't have any pacers or very minimal pacers at a safe distance. That would be the biggest difference for me personally.
What about, and along the way, we were going to have some aid stations. Would those still be able to, could people come still volunteer at an aid station if there's a couple people and they're spread out within the social distance, the recommended distance between them? Could that be a possibility if people still wanted to come support you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big thing is, being responsible about it and, in a health concern sort of way. I wouldn't want anyone to be uncomfortable in putting themselves out in the public if it's not something that they would be otherwise doing. Hopefully, this will be moot and things will be back to normal by then. But I think it's something that we're constantly revisiting and kind of, it's very fluid right now. So we're just trying to be real flexible about what the day of is going to look like.
Yeah. We have, sorry, my husband's making coffee. So we're doing a recorded session.
Hi, Scott.
Scott's in here. Everyone say hi to Scott.
How are you?
So the other thing I think too is that part of the thing we wanted to do to build this community was to bring people out to the course. And because you're running so far, there's plenty of opportunity for people to be at a safe distance and spread apart during your race course. So I think it sounds like we'll be publicizing your route. And then maybe we could coordinate a way that people could be spread out throughout the whole distance, because you're doing an out and back, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people could be spread apart, and that way people can still be a part of the event on the day of without, necessarily being in a big group if those restrictions are still in place.
Yeah, definitely. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that.
Okay. And then the other part of this conversation is what was going to happen at the after party. Those may be adjusted because of some of the stay in place recommendations, but what are some plans you'll be going through with for at least that part, the finish?
That also is very fluid. I know that I'll be finishing on the square in Woodstock. I don't know if my plan for having the big party atmosphere when I finished with vendors and all that that may not come to fruition based on all this, but we're still working it out as if it's going to be lifted and hope for the best.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, we can do some updates on what's happening with race day stuff as we get closer.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm super excited that we got to do this catch up, and I appreciate your time. Is there anything that we as a community can be doing for you in the meantime? Is there anything that you need from us? More words of encouragement? I know I owe you some more strengthening tips that you could be doing at home. But what else could we be doing to support you?
I will never say no to words of encouragement, especially if you see me out running around town. Give a honk, give a shout. That always puts a little pep in my step.
That's great.
Just trying to remain as well as you can during these difficult times, and practicing your own self-care first. I think that probably is first and foremost.
The last thing I want to ask you is, what have you learned about yourself during your training? You're putting on some pretty long miles here. what's something you've learned about yourself that you didn't know?
Oh boy, something that I learned about myself that I didn't know. Um,
And I'm trying to throw you for a loop with this question, but
yeah, I don't know if it's something that it's not something that I didn't know, but it's certainly something that's been reinforced is how stubborn I am. Just from, going out and starting a run that just, it feels like garbage from the first step, and just going through with it, and just despite myself, just getting the miles in just to prove, that I can. And on days where, the weather's garbage, I kind of had some of my better runs on that, just because you get out there and it's, it gives you like, it's me against the weather kind of mentality, and, I'm not going to let it beat me. So it's kind of reinforced my stubbornness.
well, I actually think that's more grit than stubbornness. That you're willing to like put the time in when some people may quit. That might be more grit than stubborn. I don't know if we can change
Maybe a little bit
that.
of both. Yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate your time today. And I think if we can do these check-ins in the weeks coming up, I think your story is motivating to a lot of people. And what you're doing is unbelievable. And we're really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everyone that's been following along. It hasn't been easy. Being kind of in the public eye like this it can be awkward for me, and it can be challenging, but it's important. And I think that it's good, and I'm hoping that it helps people. So